All right. So the interviews segment of American Fathers podcast, I'm having guests to come in and tell their story. And maybe we'll do it in one part. Maybe we'll do it in five. I'm sure some will take a lot longer and some can be short. We'll be able to follow up with some of these guys and see how they're doing because, of course, there's cliffhangers that go on with this stuff, and most of us are in the thick of it. So some of these interviews, I'm going to have guests that there's still cases that are ongoing, they're fragile, and even when they're done, we can always end up in family court. You can get served with another court date the next week. That's how hard some of this stuff can be. I have experienced that. I thought it was all over after finishing custody hearings before, and we just go right back over and over again. So today, we're not going to see a picture. And today we're going to call the guest John, and we're just going to talk a little bit about his experience as a father. He's here with me today. Thank you for being here, John. So um, I think we just start off with kind of saying maybe without specifics in any of these interviews, because these are all supposed to be secure and we're going to avoid names and specific locations and stuff, but your general location would be, I think, a little helpful, and how you got started, when you became a father, and how you ended up going through the family court process yourself, and what is your experience?
Well, um, when I became a father was after I had gotten married to my ex-wife. We always wanted a family, so we started trying to have kids shortly after, and the first one, our first child, I would say, is a angel baby, just because she had a miscarriage, and it was it. I saw that affected her and me differently. However, when we when we had our first successful daughter, um, I became a stay-at-home father and continued so for 3 years. We have another daughter um, after our first daughter, and they both are within 2 years apart from each other, which is really good for them.
I've got
And
a couple myself, 2 years apart. I've got three little ones here, but two of them are the same age as a couple of yours. So that would be, how old are yours? 6 and 4, is that right?
yes, 6 and
Eddie,
4.
real quick, I want to ask, how old were you guys, or how old were you when you when you became a father? When did this start in your life?
I was 30 years old when I became a father, and she was 26.
Right on. So you
So
and I are
just
about the same age as well. We got a couple of daughters the same age, and
right.
I'm 36. I think you're about 36, 37.
Yes.
Right on. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Um, Being a father completely changed my outlook on everything, life, my morals, my attractions, and the things that I knew I wanted to do or not do. I changed a lot about my life as a person. You could say, even though I was a man at the age of 30, you could say I grew up in a lot of different ways once I became a father, and I put a lot of things that I used to do all my entire life, behind me, just so I can be that good image of what it means to be a father to little kids. I had to sit there and help them essentially stay alive by feeding them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and teaching them, and just seeing them get raised from infant to toddlers to kids. And I wouldn't change it for anything. The divorce had started about when my youngest had just turned about a year and a half old. And when my oldest was about 3.5 years old, and it was devastating to me. I didn't see it coming. Hindsight, right? You see the red flags, you see the things that could undoubtedly lead to a divorce or a separation, but going into marriage is till death do us part. It's for better or worse, richer or poor. You thought whatever you would go through, that no matter how hard it gets, you would be able to get through it. I I had I knew I wasn't the ideal husband during the ending of the marriage prior to separation and the starting of the divorce process. I did things that I knew, looking back now, that I wish that I would have done differently. Um, Things like coming home every day from work and just not really wanting to do anything else to help out, whether it's dishes or cooking. And, the curse of Adam back in the Bible in Genesis shows that men should be working every day consistently, no matter what. And so if I were to go back, I would definitely um, understand better with what I know now, which is to never stop working and to always help out. There was infidelity involved in the marriage from her. At first, it seemed like it was something her and I both wanted. I thought that I wanted it after she proposed to me of a threesome with another woman. And after we had that threesome, it made me feel different on different levels. She didn't seem to have been phased by it as I know I did. I tried to speak with her about it, and it almost seemed as if after she had proposed to have a threesome with another female, and we did, then it was her wanting to have a threesome with another guy. And after that had happened, and then infidelity was involved behind my back, I it completely changed the outlook I had on the marriage, on the love that we had for each other. I could see it on both sides at that point. But like I had said before, I didn't think we couldn't get through anything, but I do definitely know now that not being faithful, even if it's a mutual understanding, was probably not the best choice that we made as a married couple.
That's a good learning process lesson right there, that things don't turn out the way maybe you thought, and going into some of that stuff, because that's very common. The situation you described is super common. So it's a good thing for other people to
Right,
hear right away right there before even get into divorce and stuff, because all of these things come together as part of the process. So
right,
understood.
definitely. When the divorce did start, like I said, I didn't see it coming, man. I sat here and thought that everything was fine. I mean, we were having dinner at a neighbor's house, not even 3 days prior. We were building a chicken coop in the backyard because we had 7 chickens that were ready to get put outside and not indoors under the red light. And I had friends from work come over and help with the chicken coop, and it was all recorded, all posted, and it was fun for the family, fun for the kids, and it was gonna be a better life for our future. Now, when it did wind up happening, I did notice the day of, about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks prior to the day of, she spoke with me about getting on depression medication. I I didn't think she had a depression problem, and I guess that's another key takeaway, is that I didn't think my wife at the time was going through anything emotional or mental that she felt the need to get on depression medication. But when she spoke with me about it 3.5 weeks prior to the divorce starting, I let her know, like, hey, I've been around other um, people that I've known very, very well that took their lives because of pharmaceutical medicine. I'm not saying that this is going to do that. I'm not telling you not to take depression medication. But before you take it, if we could just sit down and have a conversation about it, if we could just look the drug up, look at some side effects, look at other people's reviews online about it, just kind of have a more better understanding together as a married couple, because we do have kids.
Yes.
And I have seen, really close people to my life take their lives. And she said, okay. And I did ask her as well in that conversation. I didn't realize you had a depression problem. Is there something you want to talk about? That was not spoken about. She kind of shut down, didn't talk to me at that time whenever I asked her about it. So I was just being supportive and trying to really safeguard the girls from any potential anything that could have happened to harm them or even their outlook on life if their mother were to do something like what I'd experienced. Three and a
Absolutely.
half weeks later, the day of, I had asked her again about the depression medication. I had to go to work. It was about 30 minutes until I had to be there. And as I was asking her, she turned around and tried to say that she never got it yet. And I said, well, if you were prescribed depression medication, then it's not going to take this long for you to get it. You would have already had it already. And so I knew she was lying to me. And she went and grabbed the pill bottle. And long story short, I knew that she had some pills out of it, and to find out later on that she had actually switched the pills from an antibiotics pill bottle to that pill bottle. And when I did find the actual antibiotics pill bottle with the depression medication inside of it, there was barely any. And there was reason to believe that there was some type of foul play involved with her abusing it when I found emptied capsules inside of one of my daughter's bowls for her kitchen set, but it was up on the fireplace mantle. So there's a lot of questions that are still yet to be answered that I probably will never know what was going on around that. Uh, her demeanor for that last month, whether it was because of the pharmaceutical medication or not, her demeanor was very closed off. And when she did speak with me, it seemed like she was trying to get me riled up or to yell at her and fight with her. And anytime she would yell in front of the girls, I would kind of be upset because I didn't want to sit here and have them exposed to that. So it did the opposite effect of what I felt like she was trying to get out of me. And it just it caused me to just get really quiet and try to calm her down. Like, hey, it's okay. Like, we don't need to do this in front of the kids.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I went to work, and when I came back, she she had actually, I didn't realize this until later, but she actually had called the cops whenever I showed back up at home. And when she had called the cops, I wasn't getting a straight answer from the police. I wasn't getting a straight answer from anybody. And there's three police there, and I didn't know if I was going to get arrested. I didn't. The way that they were towards me, their demeanor was completely like I'm trying to do something. I didn't know if I was going to get arrested, so I asked the question because I had to. I wind up getting fired from my job that day, and I asked the question to the police: "Am I allowed to go?" And if the police officers say yes, then that means you're not being detained. You're not going to get arrested. So I went ahead and left, but they didn't want me to take my wife at the time or even my daughters, and I didn't understand that either. And the police kept saying, "Well, I think you know why we're here." And I'm like, "I really don't. Maybe you can let me know." And so I didn't realize what was going on. I left, went to go get my tools. When I came back, my wife wasn't there, and
So everybody
my
was gone.
everybody was gone. She disconnected any form of contact that I may have had with her. So I wasn't able to even reach out to her. I didn't know where my kids were. I didn't know anything. I tried to speak with the police. She had actually went to go file a temporary protection order on me, and I went and got a lawyer because I didn't know what was going on. When the lawyer looked over the temporary protection order, it had a whole list of abuses that I had no idea why it was even being said against me because it didn't happen. These abuses range anywhere from kidnapping to attempted murder to assault to child endangerment, and none of it happened. There was no evidence of
And
any of it
you
because
had
none of it
barely
happened.
you
Go ahead.
barely cut out a second ago, but I think they covered what we missed. It was just super short. You said a list of abuses, and then I heard you list those afterwards. So I think that's all that it was just a short cutout. So it had a whole list of abuses of what you
Yeah, I'll
just
go ahead and start. I'll go ahead
mentioned.
and start from there. That's
Yeah, no,
fine.
that's cool. We got it,
Okay.
and so these are a bunch of things that you had no idea how those got put down, and you're learning. Your attorney helped you start figuring out what's on the paperwork, right?
Correct. And when I went to the hearing for the temporary protection order, because at this point I hadn't seen, at this point I had gotten kicked out of the home we were renting at the time, and I didn't find out until she undoubtedly admitted at a later court hearing to having direct involvement with me getting fired from the job that I had and from me getting kicked out of the home we were living in. She had direct involvement in both of those, and she admitted those in a later court hearing.
Oh, so
I
you know what's going on. You had got lost your job before going home to this.
Yes,
Kind of was a surprise, right, with the police there.
correct. And I didn't know what was going on. She
Yeah.
basically had contacted somebody from the job that I had and said that I was trying to kill her, and
Okay.
that wasn't true. And so I can only assume that's why the police were there because she called the police saying that I was trying to kill her, and
Right.
that wasn't true. I mean, this is the mother of our daughters. This is the woman that I
Yeah.
married that I thought that we'd be through thick and thin.
Yeah, and it as you know, we're going to see as this platform grows, so it's going to be a place. This is I think it's just the best way to get down to the bottom of what, especially Americans, is where my focus is at. But people across the world are going through some very similar stuff. So far, just listening in, thinking about not to, gaslight in general, but as where mothers may feel like they don't want to take full accountability for the situation, or they're just a little bit scared to move forward as a couple. And so what I'm saying is they start to what I've experienced in the way that they start to look for an escape, and then there is almost kind of a script that seems to happen across the board to in very few words is I'm in fear, and then they articulate that in all these different ways. And so just to relate a little bit to what you're saying, it kind of sounds like that kind of a script just kind of comes through basically in so many words, like I'm in fear, and then manipulation towards all of your and
Everything,
I'll let you
every
continue, but
how
your
how I
relationship,
see
your
it.
work, your kids, and then what the police think of you, the court, and everything starts going, from there. So yeah, I'll let you continue. Yeah.
American fathers, as I see it, you have every everything gets manipulated. You have the image that she's displaying to the courts, which is manipulating the courts. You have the image she's displaying to the girls, so she's manipulating the girls. You have the image she's displaying towards me, towards her friends, towards her family. And these are masks that are not congruent with each other. It's all a different face that she is showing everybody. And
Oh
overall,
yeah.
it's manipulating.
Oh yeah. I understand that fully. I've experienced that a lot myself. I'm sure a lot of the listeners that are going to be hearing this completely understand that.
What I don't understand is if she didn't want to be with me from the very beginning of the separation, she could have just sat down and had a coffee and talked to me about it to see what would be the better outcome for the girls.
Right. And then
What I
there could be that fear coming up of what's what control is he going to take if I don't take control first, you know, kind of a thought process, which is probably very similar across the board. Like if I don't cut the legs out from underneath this castle right now, then he could do it. So it's almost like a fear of this or that.
Well,
So
there was a few different ways to look at it. You could look at it as in she wanted the upper hand. She wanted to be the petitioner, not the respondent. She wanted to sit there, have a one up with the courts for child custody or even child support. She wanted to show that she was the better, more fit parent when I'm being made look not.
you're being made
There's
what?
the people that are. Go ahead.
No, you were being made to look what? There's a little bit of choppiness, not much. I'm basically just missing one word
No, you're
here and there.
fine. Just me being made to look like some monster that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not.
Right.
As we speak right now, I'm driving to work, so that's probably why it's a little choppy. But yeah,
I forgot to
I've
fill that
drive
in
12 hours.
listeners here. So yeah, John is taking a long drive to work through, sure, all kinds of different terrain, state to state right now, right?
Correct. I'm driving between three different states right now, just to get to work, so I can have a adequate living for the girls and giving them a future that's better than what I feel like they should have. Every parent wants a better life for their child than what they had. My parents were never separated; they were never divorced, and I can't see that my daughters are going to have a good future because their parents are divorced. And so I try to just do the best I can as a father for the girls, a hundredfold. When it came down to the separation and going into the courts, there was no findings of domestic violence because there was none, and it came down to me stipulating to the protection order just because of having custody for the girls because she had already taken them and there was no parenting plan currently set in place. The divorce wasn't even filed yet to start. And so the protection order really set precedence on where the custody would have been through the divorce. And I then realized where my daughters were at that hearing, and it was 84 days. I didn't speak with my daughters until 52 days later from the time she left. And I didn't see them again until 84 days later. And when I was in court, I realized that she had left state and went over 800 miles away. And
Wow.
the way she was able to find the loophole into doing this was claiming abuse, whether there was findings or not, claiming abuse and having the courts give her temporary custody where she then puts her address down at the end of the court hearing. Because at the end of the court hearing, she then put down to the judge when the judge says, "Where's your address?" She then put down over 800 miles away, "This is where my address is." And that's how I was able to be accepted and for me to get blindsided of her being that far away. If I had known that prior to that hearing, I would have contested against it.
Yeah. And so these things can be used for leverage with our, you know, aside from like whatever the list is that of the allegations are, is it's used as a leverage, an immediate leverage, emergency, protective orders, and then again, I think this is going to be a recurring theme where right off the bat, fathers are all of a sudden facing from seeing their children every day to not at all for multiple months. And so this is what you went through as well. And then to
Yes,
find out they're 800 miles away.
right. And then what she gets me um kicked out of our home. She gets me fired. She takes all the money out of my account. She then switches the name on a bill so that I have no idea about. So I turn around and get a collections of what wind up getting paid over 3 grand down the road just so my credit doesn't get shot. And it was kind of devastating to go through all this because she set it up to where even her being 800 miles away with the girls and having a parenting plan set in place, how was I going to get there? How was I going to manage living? She didn't even tell the courts that she reached out to the property management on getting me kicked out. In fact, she tried to get the courts to get her name removed from the property lease, and they said, no, y'all are married. And behind the court's back, she contacted the property management, probably used the same victim card to then get me kicked out of our home. But yet I was already court ordered not to get rid of, destroy, or remove any of our belongings. So I have to storage unit and put the whole house in there so I don't violate a court order that she can use against me in the future.
Yeah.
I wind up getting another job with the everything that happened at the beginning. She did take my credentials, and if I didn't have a digital copy of my social security card, there was no way I would have been able to just get a job. Like no way. So I'm thankful for that. And when you marry somebody, you think that you're secure. You want that. That's the ideal thing. But if that person that you trust the most of everything of you with goes against you, it could be catastrophic. And that's generally the position she had put me in. Obtaining another job with my background, it being a sufficient job where it does pay pretty well, I was able to follow the court order in the parenting plan and be there every single time on time, traveling across the country, and to be able to sit there and just not violate it so she can use it against me. And so I'm thankful for that. Um, you asked for general location. The general location would be the Pacific Northwest area. That's where all this took place at.
Yeah, I think I mean that, as far as like, and that's fine, whatever works here, because I think sometimes people can maybe relate to the states that they're involved in, but even furthermore is multiple states get involved, you know?
Right, right.
So,
Um,
which becomes
moving
more
forward,
complicated.
moving forward from there. At the end of the first year of the protection order, I, as the respondent, had extended it, and you're able to in protection orders as the respondent, you can extend it. And I went ahead and did that. There was no hearing on extending it. It was just a signature from the judge. But what the reason why is because the divorce wasn't over. It was still the only thing holding a parenting plan. And then I wind up taking her back to court after I extended it so I can have the courts recognize 50-50 visitation rights for both parents. That was a big deal. That was the biggest card I could have played in my divorce because this parenting plan was set forth with the civil courts. It was set forth not in the family courts and by a divorce judge. And so I went back before the judge for the protection order, and I was able to accurately describe why I am a fit parent and need to have 50-50 visitation rights for the girls, with showing that I have a home, I have a room, I have a bed, I had pictures. My lawyer was asking me in front of the judge the type of activities I have with the girls, being in piano, swimming, showing pictures of them happy and playing and fun, just good times, that they love their dad. Just like I know every child does love both parents. So it was granted. It was granted to get 50-50 visitation rights for both parents. And why that's important is because of the fact that I set precedents for the divorce court to understand that both parents are already on a 50-50 standing.
So this is traveling from, you said like a civil court or divorce court that wasn't family, but then you were able to articulate a need for 50-50, a reasonable argument for 50-50 in the family court, which turned around and helped out your divorce um, proceedings after that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. The fact that I was able to show the courts that there was no violation in the protection order, that I was following the parenting plan and showing up every single time, that I was paying the child support, that I was taking parenting classes, co-parenting classes, divorce courses, and being able to show that to the courts that, hey, I haven't been doing anything wrong. I've been doing everything 100%. And I am requesting the courts to recognize 50-50 visitation for both parents. Um, when
Got
I
it.
did move to in an apartment to the area, my lawyer for the divorce had informed me that if I did not, and I try to still claim jurisdiction and that I lived in the state that she took the kids out of, then it would have gone to a trial for 100% custody. And as a man in today's society, rolling the dice for 100% custody probably wouldn't have been the smartest thing, even though she did essentially kidnap the girls. However, I always stood by that I did not want to take the girls away from their mother. It's just something I didn't want to do.
I see that as a repeating theme as well. A lot of dads just want to cooperate and they care. They do not have an interest most of the time. I understand some of them out there may have reasons or they may be malicious themselves, but all of my experience of talking with so many fathers and seeing and all this content out there is that they're usually very cooperative. They want peace and they still want a relationship for their children, not only with themselves, but with their mother. And I can relate to that too. It's nothing, never part of my plan. I see that with so many, and it's good to hear that again as a part of your story as well, that that was part of your intent and your values.
I feel like most fathers out from my experience, there is a huge difference between cooperating and trying to be amicable with the mother in comparison to the mother putting the father in a position in removing their parental rights as a father when there's nothing outlined in a court order stating something like they can't pick the girls up from the school. That was something she tried to push on me.
Can I ask, as far as picking
School.
the kids up from the
Well,
school,
there's
does that mean so it would say if you guys were 50-50 and you had was that maybe your day of the week and that there wasn't a specific time for pickup, so you wanted to pick them up from school, or is that a day that maybe, what does that mean?
So the way the parenting plan had outlined prior to 50-50 being recognized, the I had at first prior to 50-50, I had Friday, Saturday, Sunday overnight visitation. And
Right.
by having overnight visitation, which is definitely a fight any father should go for in any state that they're in, because I don't know about all the states, but certain states will sit there and in a divorce scenario, if you already have overnight visitation, there's no way that the mother can sit there and say she wants anything more than 50-50. The courts automatically look at 50-50 and then go from why do the parents not deserve 50-50. By her trying to push me to not pick the girls up from their school, from their preschool, daycare, whatever it is, if I were to have agreed to that, even though it's not outlined in a protection order that I can't pick them up from school, right? If I had agreed to her on that, even though she was being nice about it, then she could always at a later time go into a court and say, well, he doesn't even pick them up from their school. I do that.
Yeah.
So I see women like my ex-wife who will sit there and try to put me or other men in a situation to where they will be nice and the man doesn't want to fight. The man is just trying to be nice too. But if he's getting put in a position by the mother who doesn't want to be with him because she already is not with him, if she puts him in a position to not have his rights as a father when it's not outlined in a court order, then she could use that against him in a later court hearing where he really won't have rights as a father because he agreed to it.
Yeah.
And that's important to note because I feel like a lot of fathers they screw themselves over by not wanting to fight when there's a time to stand your ground as a father to your kids, to her kids, to y'all's kids, both y'all's kids, and there's a time when to just give it up and not stand your ground. There's a lot of little things that would happen that she would say, and I would ignore it. I would not sit here and disagree with it or encourage the or entertain the conversation into whatever she was either accusing or anything. It just wasn't it. It's not good. Um, Also, at the very beginning, something that is very helpful for anybody going through a divorce, whether it's toxic on one parent's end or the other, is to request the courts to, from the beginning, request the courts to have communications with your spouse, soon to be ex spouse, other parent, to have it through a co parenting app.
Okay.
There's plenty of co-parenting apps out there. I know one of them's called Wizard or something like that, but to
Yeah.
get yourselves on a co-parenting app so everything is time stamped, read receipts, everything is recorded.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
right.
way it can be displayed to the courts on what you're doing or not doing, how you're treating her, how you're not treating her. All the hearsays get thrown out the window through conversation with your children's other parent if you sit here and have it all recorded. And so
So
that helped me out a lot.
that's good. So before we keep going a little bit with the timeline of the story, is what you just said right now is important that in the beginning, when say you're a mother or a father, but what we're looking at is the pattern of what fathers are facing here is wanting to be amicable, is understand that in the beginning, there are important moments that may not seem that important, especially without experience, to stand your ground right away, pay close attention to what's going on. And in the beginning, it's a really good point. because I've been through it, starting off with just text messages or something, to get on a parenting app right away because it's very well organized in documenting the communication, timestamp, date, read receipts, and it's basically just like an established deal with the court that they will accept that is admissible evidence of communication. It's just a lot easier to use than screenshots from text messages where you have to swipe. I did this before. I had to swipe to the right to show the time, and then you have to scroll up to see what day it was. But this way, you have every message, date, time it was read, even login times and stuff like that. So that's a very helpful key right there for a takeaway. And then, yeah, I want to continue on with your timeline a little bit more, and we can continue even if we're going over an hour. We might be approaching that soon. I don't think we're quite there yet, but which is fine if we go over it. So,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
want to continue
I got
on
time.
and hear a lot of the meat of your story. But share where you'd like to share. So I want to keep hearing like where this is headed and the patterns in the future, because I've talked to you before getting on this call that and I faced myself and many others have, is a repetition of allegations to gain more leverage.
Yes, yes. So, um, certain you could say tactics, you could say actions that were made to try to win more leverage. One of them, she had at the beginning when the protection order started, she had tried to um, get. I was court ordered the first 60 days to be supervised visits. And that's fine because it doesn't matter how many supervised visits you have or don't have. If the courts have it in the order saying after 60 days, you then go to unsupervised visits, then you're going to go to unsupervised visits. She wasn't happy with not getting her way through the supervised visits. And my lawyer had made sure that the supervised visits were not with her family unless I agreed with that. And had it through either an organization or person. It wasn't required to be with an organization, and it wasn't required to be with a family member. And a person could be somebody at McDonald's at the play place.
Yeah.
And when we couldn't find, she wouldn't agree with anybody I did find for a third party supervised visit. So I went and had her grandpa because I felt like he would be a mutual party. And he was, to the extent of when the first visitation was going to occur, she tried to slip her sister in there. And I didn't feel comfortable. I knew that her family had always talked to her on a negative level for the marriage as well as through the um, divorce. And I knew they were not in my best interest and were only trying to help her get the most she can out of custody, child support, and whatever else. So I had disagreed with her sister being there, and I actually didn't have a visitation that day. That is something to note that there are things that women can do to guys, to any father, to try to get a one up. She knew she got me kicked out of the home, and I went ahead and I made sure there was a PO box linked to the courts so I could get notifications and notice through the courts.
That's
And
another good tip right there. That's another good tip right there. So in case a lot of guys are moved out of, or they can't even go back to their own home, even if they bought it and pay the mortgage or whatever it is, rent, and you're out there, where are you going to get your mail? So that's a good point right there. I think getting a PO box together and what'd you say, registering it with the court, right, as your mailing
right,
address.
no, and that is important because she tried to serve me, and it just so happens that the United States Postal Service had a glitch in their system for the month that I was getting served, and I was able to get proof of that and get back before the judge because what wound up happening was that she had gotten me served through the mail and the court hearing happened. And because I wasn't present, it swayed her way. But after the court hearing happened and I found out about it, I went ahead and went back for an emergency hearing on the protection order that I wasn't present on. And I was able to show proof to the courts that the United States Postal Service, in fact, didn't have a glitch in their system, and I never received the mail.
Okay.
So that happened, and that was cleared up. But having a PO box is definitely something that you would want to have, even if you're still living in the same home, because you never know what's going to happen. You just never know. I had to change my email. She had access to my email. She had access to my bank account. I had to change my passwords, but also get in 2 additional emails. Why? Because she didn't know about them. And the one that she would have known about would be the only email that I would have linked to anybody that is linked to her through the kids, pediatrician, school, doctor, any, it's court too. Anybody that she could potentially find an email on with my that was attached to me would be this one email that is not for my personal, not for my work, not for anything else. And that's positive and good. And I had to do that with my phone too. So not only did I have to get a new phone number, but you can also go download Google Voice and you can get a secondary phone number on your phone where you can get incoming and outgoing calls and text messages. And so I have 2 phone numbers right now, and anybody linked to my ex-wife or kids is that secondary phone number, secondary email. And that's really positive to have, because when it comes to dealing with the type of ex-wife that I have, she'll do anything and everything to get me fired, to sit here and really make it hard on me. The other jobs that I had gotten let go of, it was very anecdotal to sit here and see that she had got me fired from those jobs, even though it wasn't as confirmed as when she went to court and said that she did in fact have direct involvement with getting me fired from that first job at the beginning of the separation. So there were 2 other jobs, and at this point now 3 other jobs other than that first initial job. The last time I got fired was right before Christmas, and she was the one who caused that to happen. And I'll get into that. But staying in chronological order instead of skipping around, coming up on the time of the divorce, she had reset the court hearing by wanting the divorce to happen in the state that she was in. She had asked the judge to cancel next week's court hearing, which is, it always seems to be right at the brink of when we're about to get divorced. Does she sit here and try to get it reset? The mediation failed because she didn't want to sign for anything more than me having every other weekend, which wouldn't have worked with my work schedule. And it's not what I was asking for, which was 50-50, and there was no reason to not have 50-50. So when it came to the divorce, she asked the judge to get it set in the state she was living in, that we were both living in. And the judge said, okay, go to that state, file for divorce, send me the paper, and answer 7 questions. She never did that. 2 months later, another divorce date got set for 4 months later. So going 6 months later, coming up to that date, 1 week prior, she brings me back in court and she tries to get it reset again. And when she tries to get it reset, the judge said, no, y'all are getting divorced next week. So what does she do? Going from pro se to obtaining a legal aid lawyer, now it's forced and has to get reset. So it gets reset for an additional 4 months.
Wow.
An additional 4 months. So now we're about 10 months when the divorce should have been finalized to whenever it actually did get finalized. And the lawyer had told me the reason why she kept resetting it was to drown me in finances with legal fees with my divorce lawyer, as well as trying to get me to slip up. On top of that, she was getting paid over $1,000 for child support. So that was something else that she was looking at, was actually saving up money by capitalizing on the child support I was paying prior to the divorce being finalized, where it wouldn't have been as much.
A lot of good lessons right there too. So these are things that are I'm seeing repeated out there and drowning out through time. When they know you're paying legal fees, or for some guys that don't even get representation, they may be trying to save up for that, and just getting time dragged on and dragged on and dragged on can make that a lot worse. Or if you are signed up with it, you have an attorney. I was drowned out of an attorney within a matter of about 5 months, if that, and I gave everything I could to even get that much time, and I got immediately taken out with that. And this started off with the type of trust that we have in a home with a partner, especially married, the type of catastrophic sabotage that can happen with someone that has access to every detail of your life, every password, every email, every bank account, medical information, all that stuff with your kids. And security to that you're talking about, we're saying is, aside from immediately getting signed on to a parenting app or setting up if you think something's going on, getting a PO box, because you may not be living in the home you're in at any moment. And what was I going to say about a security is, one of the issues that you mentioned earlier was your own personal paperwork that you need to be employed, say with a new job, you pretty much didn't have access to, except for you got lucky with like a social security card or a birth certificate, barely, and were able to hold on to a job because of that. So having those things in another place, copies of them or something, just in case, especially if you feel things are rocky, I think sounds like part of a security here, or a lesson to take away from this. Does that sound about right? Like, as far as what you went through too?
Yes, that is correct. And
Awareness.
there's a couple other important things that I feel that every man should know, whether they expect to get divorced or not, because nobody ever expects divorce when they get married. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't, and I mean, just look at the divorce rate in America today. It's over 50%. It's
It's
insane.
huge. Yeah.
And look at the statistics behind the outcomes for the fall involving custody. That's insane. And
Mhm.
I think that, with me having ended a 50-50 custody for our girls that we have, I think that something that really helped me, that my lawyer told me at the very beginning, a few things I'm going to say. One, he said, this woman is not your friend. She is out to get you. She's not trying to sit there and be with you. So take that out of the picture. You're not going to get back with her, or else she would be with you right now.
Yeah.
Especially if she's sitting here accusing you of abuse. She's sitting here not giving you your children when it's supposed to be amicable. Now, there are amicable divorces. There are. But generally speaking, in today's society, with the trajectory and statistics that have been shown, it's not going to be likely. It would be lucky if a man were to have an amicable divorce. For you to go through a divorce and to follow the parenting plan, keep paying child supports, dating, keep working, keep taking the kids to church, and extra activities,
Yeah, yeah. Let me step in real quick because I'm getting a little bit of
kids.
an interruption. I'm getting cutting out a whole bunch right here. So let's see if we can get a hopefully a better connection. I'm getting a lot of cutout, and I can't hear you right now either. Let me hang on a minute and let me see if you can we get you back in here. Yeah, it's still super. I'm starting to hear you a little bit, but it's still super choppy right now.
No, it's on my end. I'm speeding up to get better service.
Oh, there we go. Now I can hear you very clear. So what I heard is a few things your lawyer told you that you were going to talk about
Yeah,
during
I'll
meeting.
start from there. So a few things that my lawyer had told me from the very beginning that I feel like every
She doesn't
man,
want to be with you, right? We made
right,
it through that part. She doesn't want to be with you. Pay attention to that, or she would be with you. She's putting out allegations of
right.
abuse, not letting you
It,
see
she
kids.
if she wanted to be with you, then she would. So the fact that she's doing anything to like she seems like she's being nice and you don't want to fight with her, get that out of your head. Get that out of your head. She's doing it tactfully, manipulatively. She's wearing a mask and she's probably with another guy. Just understand that.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
when when all this first happened, he told me a set of rules. He basically said, and I followed it to the T. And it really did show the courts exactly, you know, what the heck when it comes to like custody, like you have don't drink, always pay child support, always keep working. That way you're showing stability. Always take the children to church. Take massive amounts of pictures and videos of the times you have with the children. Go ahead and always follow the parenting plan. Do not violate any type of protection order, any type of parenting plan. Don't violate that at all. Don't badmouth don't badmouth the mother on any extent, and that really shouldn't be done to the kids anyway. I don't care what age they are.
100%. Yep. Ever.
And to sit there and just show that you are being a supportive and loving parent and you're co-parenting amicably, or at least trying to. She's gonna act out. She's gonna say things. She's gonna not get her way. She's gonna throw fits. She's gonna react off of her emotions, and that's not men. Men don't react off of emotions. They react off of um, critical thinking. They react off of being able to stop and look at the whole situation and understand the best avenue of approach. And so for a man to go through this, if everything's already recorded, you already know not to say anything on this co-parenting app that would shine negative light on you.
Yeah.
You're always being nice. You're always sitting there and structuring what you say, focus on the kids, not focus on her. See, when we were in a interesting situation having to communicate about our kids, about our daughters on a co-parenting app, but yet there's a protection order. So she's claiming being a victim. Obviously, she doesn't want to talk to me, but yet I'm able to talk with her about the kids. There were a few times on the co-parenting app where she did try to communicate with me that had nothing to do with the kids. And when that happened, I ignored it. I never responded to her, or I redirected the conversation to the girls. I asked the question, what does this have to pertain with our daughters? Or how is this our daughters? Or hey, one time she said something and I just responded back with, hey, could you tell our daughters that I love them? And good night.
Yeah, and that can be very important because like I've had on some of my orders in the past is no contact whatsoever, direct or indirect, as part of protection orders or restraining orders. However, that they allow peaceful contact regarding the children. Okay, and like that's just about it, probably very similar to yours. So that could, by her, say in anybody's situation, by her bringing up other subjects and you responding to that, even though she brought it up, that could put you in a very dangerous place to get a violation for talking about things that don't regard the kids, one, if peacefully, and two, regarding the kids only, basically. So it's a good point that that could come up and
Um,
be dangerous for you.
coming up on the ending of the divorce, when she went from pro se and got a legal aid lawyer and it got reset, and then it came up to the month of the divorce, she didn't want to bend. The reason why she didn't want to get a lawyer is because already having established 50-50 and her going to that lawyer and saying 50, that lawyer basically set her straight. And in my opinion, the way I see it, she got put in a corner in the divorce
Okay.
because these lawyers are bound by the bar. They cannot lie to the judge. And they know the reality of the situation because they communicate with your lawyer. So unless the mom has a high paying lawyer and there is some straight up dirt on you to remove everything and anything, even if you did assault her, in some states, if it wasn't in front of the kids and you took some anger management classes and you took some co parenting classes, they're still going to give you 50-50. You just have to stand up for that. You have to stand up for yourself and say, I want 50-50.
No, yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that because, and that's even though I think the majority of the time no violence ever took place. I know even like with my case back when I was had an allegation in into 2011, beginning of 2012, as I got more custody right at the same time that was going on with these criminal allegations than I did today. Like, what's it, 15 years later, and there's been no other criminal record or those kinds of allegations since then. We and and you can, but that's how they treat it anyway. So to assume, because when you're going through there as a father, as far as the court's concerned, you did do it, and then they say you got to take, batterer's intervention or anger management, and they still hand over your every other weekends. Or like you're saying, if you're really pushing for it, which you should be at all times, you're 50-50, so that's a
Right.
good point.
When the divorce finalized and 50-50 was already set in stone, I, like many other fathers out there, thought, hey, the battle's over. And it's true, the battle was over, but the war is still continuing, especially when she, at the very beginning, messaged somebody that I'd known for over 10 years. And she didn't think that I was talking to him. And he knew the situation. He knew that she took the girls. And when she came to him and said all this stuff, which wasn't anything that she was telling the courts, so it was a whole bunch of other fabricated lies, he saw right through that. And there were a few things that she had said where he was like, yep, that's a lie right there, because I remember during this time that this and this happened and that didn't happen. And so he already saw through that she was lying to him. He asked her a simple question: what do you want at the end of all this? Her answer: I want full custody. I want to change my name, and I want a protection order on this man for the rest of my life. And when I showed my lawyer that, because it was on text that she said this, my lawyer said, well, she's not going to get 100% custody. She can change her name, but you're going to know it. And she's not going to get a protection order for the rest of her life because you didn't do
Yeah.
anything. And when you think about that being her motive from the very beginning, the divorce ends. I think, hey, I have child support down a little bit. It was down maybe like $300. And I was like, that's cool because I'm used to not getting that extra money. So now I have this extra money. Let me move out of this apartment. Let me get into a house for the girls. Let me give them a backyard. Let me build up to getting them their own dog. Let me sit here and give them a beautiful life, because that's all I ever was focused on, was giving the girls a life that they didn't have. And
Just
when I go ahead.
I'm just kind of praising that right there. That's what it is. That's what most of us are all just trying to do, is be a good father and provide for them, give them a good life. So it's good
Right.
to hear that, you know. It's what we
So
really want.
so whenever I did that, thinking that she was just gonna follow the divorce decree and everything was gonna be better, things were gonna cool down. And in some fathers' cases, it does. It does. You have an out the divorce decree, which, in all honesty, in I don't know if this is countrywide, but I know in certain states, including the one that we were in and the one that we're currently in, one violation of the divorce decree is a $5,000 fine or up to 6 months in jail. And as I started seeing her constantly violate this divorce decree, I knew the fight wasn't over. I just didn't understand quite yet on how severe she was willing to push it. And that leads to what I'm dealing with today. So essentially, um, it was coming up to the end of the second year protection order. And I showed up to court because I knew she was wanting it to get extended, because that is her MO. That's her pattern. That's who she is. That was her victim card from the beginning. And if you, as a father, if you put your hands on her, what she's saying is true or not. You can lie to everybody. You can't lie to God. You can't lie to yourself. So you know the truth. And if she
Yeah.
truly is fabricating all this, and there was no findings of anything in court, going up to a judge, knowing that she's been wearing this mask of a victim card, knowing that she's sitting here displaying herself as if, oh, he's a monster, I'm scared for my life, even though she's yelling at you 3 parking spots away when you do a custody exchange, but then turns around and she starts acting all scared of you, even though you didn't react to her yelling at you. You just kind of looked at her like, wow, I thought you were scared of me. It's the mask, right? It's the facade. So
Yeah.
coming up to this end of the 2 year, and I show up to the judge, asking her like what she wants. The petitioner always goes first. So asking the judge what she wants, or the judge asking her what she wants, and she asked the judge for an extension of 3 years on the protection order, when there hasn't been one violation of the protection order. Aspects of the protection order were implemented into the divorce decree by me, which is probably something good that fathers need to think about. If you're coming up to the divorce and there is a protection order, look at how that protection order protects you from her hearsays, like having exchanges at a police department or a sheriff's department, or just in front of a camera in general. That's important because it protects you from her saying that you did XYZ.
Yeah.
So the
They can call
co-parenting
it any
app,
time and make an allegation, and you could end up in
right?
handcuffs real quick.
Exactly,
Even if
exactly.
you're,
Really quick,
say you're in
really
a
quick.
you're never there. And yeah, I mean, I can relate to that immediately. It is important because, and I'll get a lot to my story throughout this channel over all these episodes, but there was times where to protect myself during this, I asked the court that we meet at a police station, and they said no and sent me to a McDonald's, and then I was unprotected. So that's just a small example. We're going to continue with the story here, but absolutely important.
Um, Another aspect was keeping communications within the co-parenting app. So by me explaining to the judge why she doesn't deserve to have a 3 year extension, being that aspects of the divorce decree are were came from the protection order of keeping the safety involved for both parties, including the children, because I mean it does harm the children for false allegations to be said, because that undoubtedly harms custody. And I will go into that here shortly with the recent events that have happened. So she was denied. I did have pictures of the girls and where we were living and being right there in a cul-de-sac, playing in their self-righted battery powered Jeep. That was fun for them, and they right now that Jeep is too big to be where we're living now in an apartment, because we're not in a home anymore. When that protection order was dismissed, what I've noticed is the vengefulness and vindictiveness through her actions afterwards, where I was getting about 2 phone calls every week when I was not have when she had her custody time. I would get 2 phone calls throughout the week, just random phone calls. That narrowed down to one or none. And with my custody arrangement being 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, it went from having 4 phone calls for her custody time down to one or none.
And that's you
And that,
talking to your kids.
yes, so just talk to the kids. And I explained to her, I don't need to be on the phone with them for very long. I just would like to ask them the general questions. Hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How is school? Do you like school? What did you learn? I love you. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you in this many days. That's it.
That's so
Just to,
important and reassuring to the kids. It is so important. It's sad to see
so
that bypassed.
by her not following the divorce decree, in alienating the girls from their father, which is what she was doing, and she was violating the divorce decree for the phone calls. She was essentially, from the definition of alienation, is preventing the relationship that the child has or the children have with their parent. And by doing that, that alienation is actually illegal in every single state. And if that's what's happening, then it needs to be known by the courts, especially if it's more obvious than not. Coming up on the school year, this school year, she probably thought that I wasn't going to be able to take the girls to school, or there was going to be some type of negligence surrounding that. And I thought, because the day that the protection order ended, I was like, well, what else is she going to do? I'm sitting here speaking with my divorce lawyer, who I was still talking to. What else is she going to do? And it would have been down to two things. One, her thinking that I was going to be negligent in attendance at school. And two, it would have probably been her accusing me of some type of abuse on the girls. And lo and behold, coming on less than 2 months after the protection order that on her was dismissed, did she completely cut off communications, and then she filed for a temporary protection order on our girls, saying that I had abused them on the worst extent. I mean, you look at everything going on in society right now with these Epstein files, I'm sure you could put two and two together to think of what that may mean. So she's sitting here without any evidence, without anything, saying that I've now abused the girls. So I didn't see him. Didn't see him for my next parenting time. Didn't see him for the next one after that. We get into court. My lawyer orders a investigation from CPS, who, through their investigation, has the findings of the mother coaching and doctoring the girls into lying to government agents and authorities. That's a big deal, because even though I knew that,
Yeah.
it's now on not only a CPS report, but it's also on court record. And when that first hearing was dismissed, she didn't even show up to the hearing. Now, if any part of her allegations held any merit, I would be in jail and there wouldn't be a dismissal of the temporary protection order and it would have turned into a protection order. And because she didn't show up and because it was dismissed, she knew right off the bat because at this point, I then started messaging her. I then started saying, hey, when can I see the girls? Can I talk to them? Can I call them? And when she had seen that I was um, trying to reach out to the girls, within 24 hours later, she files another one. And she now says it's happening to the other daughter. So now there's another temporary protection order on our daughters who pay mine. I was a primary caregiver for the first 3 years of these girls. Even in her initial protection order complaint at the beginning of the divorce, there was no rhyme or reason of anything being against the girls. And she sat there and I never saw the girls for any of the holidays this past holiday season.
This
93
last year.
days this last year, 93 days from the beginning of October. I dropped them off at their mom on at the end of September, and I didn't see my daughters until New Year's.
And so just a small recap is the convenience of the protection order that was set in place, the one that you had extended. This one runs out, and there's no allegations of this type before that, during that time. But then once that runs out, it's used as a tool and brought out like it's a card up a sleeve for one child, and that gets not only thrown out but discovered that there's coaching and manipulating going on of the child, and then that one goes, and then so no consequences, right? I think that's part of this as well, is that there's no consequences for things like these, for just kind of throwing a bunch of shit at the wall until something sticks. So then you get another one for the other child. And then
Correct.
you're talking about this is pretty recent, over like the past 12 months or so. And so then you end up not seeing either one of your children through
Oh, this was within the past 6 months.
yeah, so you don't end up seeing them, but from this last Thanksgiving, Christmas season until New Year's, because now you're dealing with this. And then so in this time,
I
as
didn't
we
know what my
still
daughters
know,
were for. I didn't know what my daughters were for Halloween. I never got to spend time with them around Thanksgiving or Christmas, and it was only a lot of things had happened apart from that. So um, not only when she filed the second one was there a lot of um, false allegations that had nothing to do with what I was being accused of, and I realized that she had added that in the protection order specifically because she was able to hand this protection order to the school. So now the school is reading a protection order with all these false allegations that have nothing to do with the allegations of the protection order to give a defamation of character and slander from the school's eyes towards the father.
yeah, these
And
are all things that should be, unfortunately, we don't have any. This is an issue as to why this platform gets the name of What American Fathers. Well, you would never think, probably you and me growing up as a young boy and a man, thinking that we live in the greatest country ever, and then we come to find out how easy it is for massive sabotage to take place and the psychological phenomena that happens when information like this is then taken to a school setting, and then you get all these administrators in there. A lot of them, most of the time, are women, and then it's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna team up, and he's thrown out. He's just treated like more
Look,
than
look,
less.
the fact of the matter is, American fathers, is that when she got me kicked out of our home, I was sleeping in my car for 8 months.
It's a
And
good
then
thing you noted there. A lot
when
of times,
this
fathers are homeless.
yeah, no, that's what happened.
Self-included.
I slept in my car for 8 months, and whenever I did get my overnight stays for custody, I either stayed at a hotel or I stayed at an Airbnb. I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, I'm a diamond member somewhere with some hotel, and I'm I did everything that I could. It was never helpless. I never at one point thought, man, what could I do to make this easier? No, I always put any action I made moving forward from the beginning, it was always for a better future for the girls. And if you have that mindset, then you're not going to end up a statistic because my lawyer told me the statistics for men that went through what she put me through would have been either dead or in jail because that would have been my actions of my reaction to what she was doing. And that's
Yeah,
not
most of the
something that
women
I
in the
was
world
willing
though.
to give to the girls at any point for their future.
Yeah.
If I'd have done anything that she had done to me, if I had done any of that to her, I'd be in jail. And that is this society we live in today as fathers.
100%.
Um, when I had seen my daughters for New Year's, I knew that I needed to get an apartment. I couldn't sleep in my car anymore. She got me fired December 23rd because of defamation of character on the internet. And it got back to my job. I don't know if it was something sent to my job or if it was something that was seen by somebody from my job and just presented to HR. But whenever I spoke with HR, they basically told me, quote unquote, not a very good reflection on the company.
That's how
Now,
easy.
that's how easy it is. Exactly. And um, fortunately, I was able to find employment again, not as quick as before. However, I was able to find employment again. And through that, everything is starting to look on the up and up. However, despite her attempts in fabricating allegations to try to remove me from those girls' future as the father, she has done it the third time. She has done it the third time, and this time she claimed rape. And I knew whenever I had gone into the apartment to get cameras because of her false allegations, I knew to get cameras.
Yeah.
And the fact that the cameras didn't even need to be mentioned in the court, even though it's very much a key piece of evidence to show forth innocence, having recorded cameras in your home. It sucks. It's stupid. You're always being watched. It's whether you have it on a cloud or you have it on a little SIM card, you're recording it. It's like a DVR. It'll reset after so many weeks or months, or depending on the quality. They have plenty of options. I suggest if you're being falsely accused in a high conflict custody type scenario with your ex wife or ex baby mama, I would
Hmm.
suggest getting cameras because what is she going to say? And
Yeah.
it didn't even need to get brought up in court about the cameras before the judge ripped her a new one and said straight to her face, I believe you're doing this to get a one up in custody. This needs to be handled by family courts. And that's where we're at right now. The latest protection order got dismissed. And I, conveniently enough, she had displayed, she, she, she did not go to the courts to file this latest temporary protection order until 2 days prior to me getting custody. Because she knew that it would take about 2 weeks before we would at least get into a court. And
Those were
that,
timing and everything.
yep, the pattern is there. Something to recognize and to observe and look at involving what you're going through with your ex spouse, ex baby mama when custody is involved for fathers is to document everything. Go to Walmart, buy yourself a $10, $7, $12, whatever, year calendar memo book. Keep that with you always. I don't care what it is. You have co-parenting app that will document and record everything. Yes, but what about the things that are not easily documented? Like when you pick the girls up and or your kids up and there's a black eye. Yeah, you take them to the doctor. You have them write down in the doctor's notes that you just picked them up from their mom and this is what is on there. You take pictures. You have timestamps in your phone for pictures. You do this and document literally everything. I had my daughter the other day, not even 3 days ago. We were swimming in some indoor pool, and she sits here and comes up to me and she says, Mommy says you're a bad daddy. My 4 year old. Mommy says you're a bad daddy, but you're not a bad daddy. You're a good daddy. And I pulled out the memo book before that night ended, and I go to that date and I write that down and where we were in the timestamp, basically. I write that down because it's important. It's important to sit here and document everything. Even if you can't show the evidential proof, you have a memo book, and that will show a judge that you are on top of everything that you're on top of, that you're organized. When you buy an item, whether it's dinner, when you're out to eat, when you go and buy some clothes, it doesn't matter. You get a receipt. Now, receipts, they fade
Yeah.
over time. Receipts, it's hard to keep up with. I don't even like keeping them. It's trash to me. However,
Yeah.
when you get that receipt, take a picture. Take a picture of it. That's it. Simple. Take a
Absolutely.
picture of that receipt. Keep documentation of everything. And
Because it's
when
something that when you're going through it, I know myself deeply that your when your mental energy is that tested and frustration, depression, stuff like that. I know for sure I've been there. You don't feel like doing all that stuff, and you're not. You could even question whether or not you're ever going to use it. But for this tip right here, coming from this man, this father, is it is important because you never know the severity of what can come tomorrow and how important these simple steps can save you.
I found that taking a picture is a lot easier because through the divorce, I wind up having this bag. All the bag was receipts, and I threw it all in there. But when the divorce ended and I was able to go through that bag to throw it all away because I never used it,
Yeah.
I found that some of the receipts were in fact faded and unlegible, and it really shows that if I did put it all together, and that was another thing. I'm just throwing it in the bag. Whatever you keep for that month, your little memo pad, it doesn't have to be small. It could be, page letter size. You know what I mean? It could be where you can stick pages in there
Yeah.
for that month. Anything for doctor's notes, put them in there. Go and
Yeah.
get physical evidence of the doctor's notes too. You have access to the portal. Go and get it printed out at the pediatrician the next time you go for the previous visit, or go ahead and ask the doctor, hey, is it okay for documentation purposes if I wait out in the lobby and, you write up your report and I go ahead and get a copy from the receptionist at the front? I don't mind waiting. And
Yeah.
they'll turn around and she'll either say yes or no. The worst you're going to get is a no. If you can take a no as a man, you should be able to. You go ahead and just take the no. And then you just get it next time. Or you get screenshots and get those printed out at Staples, you
Email
know,
or whatever they
it's
can do
something.
to
Yeah.
get to it.
And
Yeah.
if you have a lawyer and he has a paralegal or whatever, like I do right now, everything you get, go ahead and just send it. Send it. Send it. Um, right now, where I'm at with everything, she has not followed the divorce decree so much. She has been served, and I'm taking her back to family court. And as of right now, I'm just doing a modification. And don't think that that's, oh, I should go after for her custody. No, it's a stepping stone, a modification to remove her legal because she has violated it a lot and she doesn't deserve to have legal. So taking away her legal because the girls would be in better hands with a clear mind parent that will not weaponize having legal status over the other parent. And so I'll still share with her everything involving legal because I'm showing good foot forward. I'm showing efforts to let her know like, hey, I'm not going to drop down to your level. I'm not going to weaponize this. And then to sit here and at any point in the future, she can be taken back to court and held in contempt for her previous claims of things. So I have enough to get legal. And then as far as custody goes, with everything that has been happening and recently happening, because that recent hearing just happened not even 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And so I just saw my daughters for just 1 week this past week. And like I said, man, the fight is worth it because what is the alternative? Your child growing up and being a bastard, period. And when you look up the statistics for fatherless boys, fatherless girls, the life statistics of that are way more detrimental for a human than anything you would be getting thrown in the ringer of with an ex-wife or ex-baby mama. You're an adult, you're a man, you can do it. You just gotta keep one foot in front of the other, have a positive mental attitude, which is the number one thing you should have.
Very good. Yeah.
Positive mental attitude. If don't go to work talking about all your problems, they don't want to hear it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares to hear about your problems as a man, which is why I'm thankful for American Fathers because this is a platform where you can speak about it. This is a platform to connect with other fathers that have been through it to understand how would I be able to get through this. Having those outlets and understandings with what's going on with your situation, which it won't ever be a cookie cutter from mine, but there will be similarities that fathers would be able to pick up along the way. Take those, run with them. If you have any questions, message American Fathers,
Yeah.
and he'll sit there and if he doesn't know the answer, I guarantee you he'll reach out to me or other fathers that have been through it to see who does have the answer.
That's right. That's
Just
right.
being there for your kids and putting them first. It's not fun. It's not fun. But if I were to have any man who doesn't have kids, whether you are already married or are thinking about having kids and want to be married with kids, my suggestion for you, know who it is that you want to have kids with before you have kids with them. Because if I were to go back out of everything that I've said in this interview, about my story that went wrong with the marriage to cause all this to happen, there's two things that I can point out that were the things that went wrong. One was I wasn't following God. At the time when everything happened leading up to, I was not following God. That's what I mainly did wrong. And a man will always be able to push the rest of the family 93%. No, 98% of the time, the man in the house will always be able to push the rest of the family, wife included, towards God when he's following God. When it's just the woman following God for the rest of the family to follow God, it's 2%. Those are the statistics of following God or not in a family household. So that's important. That's something I was not doing. And if she's not following God, then it's more easy for her to be swayed by evil, by the deceitful tactics of evil.
Yes.
Um, the other thing that I failed to do was understand, not that, oh, she wants kids or oh, she's good with kids. No, understand her parenting style and how her parenting is different from mine. I didn't know that until after I saw she was okay with screaming at the kids and screaming in front of the kids and yelling at the kids where I was not. She's
Yeah.
okay with feeding them on the floor and even locking them in a bedroom, which is all documented and recorded, whether it's pictures or videos, where I was not.
Yeah.
It's okay for her to punish the kids at 1 year old, 2 years old with spankings and putting them in timeout and essentially telling them to go to their room, where I was not. I sit here, not that I think spanking's bad. I was spanked all the time when I was a kid, but I do sit here and have a different approach. I feel like communicating with them, even if they don't understand you, communicating with them, sitting
Yeah.
them down, talking to them, understanding why did you do this? You don't know? Okay, well, we have time to figure it out. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's figure out what's going on.
Great.
Because at the end of the day, when they're adults and they look back, they're going to appreciate a lot more that I actually took the time and effort to understand who they are and to help them get through it so they can make better decisions than just simply punishing them. Society does that way too much.
Yeah. So getting into relationships for typically it's going to obviously be more often than not a younger crowd, and it's easy to go for the sex or the idea of playing house together. You know, you don't have to answer to anybody else, it's your own space, but reality sets in real quick if you didn't go over these things or do your best to investigate these things, talk about these things to find out the hard way that oh my God, you know, you whether you're a man or a woman, you have kids with someone who is going to not treat the kids well. You know, that is heartbreaking. It's tough to deal with, and it's very scary as a father. And even for mothers out there that deal with the opposite, you know, that and you know, and fathers are usually the ones that don't get to be living with the kids anymore for the majority of the time. You know, cookie cutter program, the way that works is it's very scary to think about, okay, oh my God, you know, now I'm not even going to be in the house and they're going to continue to be treated like this. It's very tough mentally to even think about that. So it
You
encourages
know,
this to
go
remember.
ahead. I was just gonna just chime in real quick, man, and say that a few good takeaways with what was not mentioned is that you had mentioned before about it seems to be the same type of pattern with amongst all the women that are doing this to fathers with playing the victim card and essentially just being a narcissist. We're the narcissists because they call us that, but if you look at their actions compared to ours, they're the true narcissists in this, and they're only blaming us with everything that they are actually doing. And when you look into that type of mental illness, because that's what narcissism is defined as. Not saying every single story is revolved around the woman being a narcissist. However, in my situation, I could see that. Um, to sit here and really understand that they these women need support to fuel their false allegations. They need flying monkeys, is what I call them. I think that they're called that from others, but they
I
need
agree.
support. They need an audience. They need somebody to sit there on their Facebook or their Instagram or their social media of whatever sorts to tell their sob story, lies, and deceit to, for them to get somebody to say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Oh, you're better than that. Oh, you should do this, this, and that," even though they're completely full of lies and deceit to the person they're talking to, but yet they're still getting tips and one-ups, and that fuels them. That's the reason why they keep getting these flying monkeys to sit there and help aid them and assist them. With that being said, they will get spies. I call them spies because that's exactly how I see them. And generally speaking, at the beginning of a separation or a divorce, those spies will be people that you know, people that you grew up with, people that you knew for years longer than you were even knowing her or even married to her or having kids with her,
Yeah, including family.
including family. And the best suggestion I can tell you when you start this process of divorce or separation, don't trust anybody. If you have to sit there and cut everybody off, do it. Do it. If you don't want to cut somebody off, then go to him and say, "Hey, man, I'm going through a rough time," or "Hey, woman, female friend that I've known for so many years, I'm going through a rough time. I kind of just want to not talk for a while. I hope you understand." And just leave it at that. The worst that they're going to do is cut you off. And if they cut you off because they don't understand, then so be it.
Yeah.
They weren't meant for you to be stay in your life anyway, if that's the case. If they are true, then they will stay in your life and they'll understand and they won't pressure you. Those spies will always come in the form of somebody you know to try to talk to you about anything and everything, to get information from you about anything and everything, to relay it back to the mother so it can be used against you in your future court hearings. Period. It will happen. It happened with me. And
Come with me.
I sat there and figured, why is this person reaching out to me? I haven't spoken with them for at least 6 months or a year, and they're reaching out to me all out of the blue right now. Even though I cut them off, I just stopped talking to them, and then they're reaching out of the blue. And I'm sitting here not saying things to them that would be used against me. And I said things to them that actually, knowing if he was a spy and it did get back to our daughter's mother, then it would only go in my favor because now the mother is thinking this way. I'm not even saying manipulate the situation in that aspect, but she
Yeah.
was the one who sent the spies out to me in the first place. So there is that. But relentless, they're not going to try and stop. They're going to always try to take away your parental rights as a father because that's more money for them. Because there's a lot of states that if it's 50-50, you don't need to pay child support. It's a free
Yeah.
ride. It's a free ride for them for the rest of their life until the child is 18.
Yeah. It's there's a lot more plenty of more discussion to be had about other things going on behind it, and then we'll get to a lot of deep conversations with that on the podcast here, and a reminder for, and hopefully we have John here be able to drop by Saturdays. I'm never charging for it as a place for that's not broadcast, and for fathers to come and talk, tell your story, hear other stories. We talk for at least an hour, 2 p.m. Pacific time on a Zoom call just like this with a lot more of us. You come in and listen, you come in and talk, introduce yourself. Very helpful to listen to others and to listen to words like guys from the name we're using here, John, and others that are already going to be showing up in there next week. It could grow to a limitless amount, and it's already going to be, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 people showing up this next week. Um, be really helpful spot to come in and listen to that, and all these guys that have been through so much, like John here, the words are very helpful. You can see that we're running into a lot of really good tips and things here, things that I forgot to even mention or ask about, that'll be very helpful. So I encourage anybody to reach out, Instagram, direct message, um, the word group, or comment the word group on this YouTube video, and we'll figure out, I'll start a conversation with you to get in touch with you and send you the information to show up to those things. And you covered a lot of really great things tonight, and I think it just about wraps it up. But is there anything else that you'd like to say that has been important to you, or any other figures that have been supportive to you that you'd like to mention? Or I like that you brought up God. That's huge. Because that's what the structure is there for. I am a believer. And the more and more I study it and stay close to my Bible and listen to others and their testimony and their life, like this is a huge example to bring that up. It's really going to increase the odds of things going better if you're following God's wisdom, listening to God's word, living a godly life, God-fearing life as well. We got to put ourselves, deny ourselves and do what God's asking us to do. And it's going to give us a much better chance and actual structure that's there for us already to follow to give us a good life. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to add to this?
Have that one person that you trust, that you talk to. Don't have it be somebody that already knows the mother. For me, I met this my parents are dead, right? And I met this woman on a Christian channel on Telegram. I met this woman there. And when I met her, it was before the divorce started. And she saw it unfold. She saw everything that was happening. She saw the manipulation, the deceit, the lies. She saw all that. And she was the woman that reminded me, just like my mother, living out of a different state, who would answer the phone and talk with me throughout my time going through it. And there were some times where I did break down. I did come to the terms of like, why is this happening? I said all my negatives and all my stuff. It gave me an opportunity to vent my frustration and to express myself, so I didn't have to anybody else. And so the takeaway I would like for all these fathers that are going through it is to simply just, and that's, in all honesty, I wish that there was a I wish that there was a American Fathers back when I was going through it all, because it would have been this platform that I would have sat there and been able to share all those things with. The Saturdays that he just mentioned, to share all these things with, because you do need to get off your chest. You do need to just let it out. If you're not going to let it out, it's going to consume you. You're going to guarantee to get lack of sleep whether you let it out or not. You're just going to. but to let it out so you don't have to elsewhere. Because if you let it out elsewhere, a neighbor, a coworker, you're going to have a negative time moving forward in life if now your coworker sits here and looks at you in a negative way. You have your boss calling you in, probably going to tell you to stop talking about it because nobody cares to talk about it because you're not there to make friends or have your coworkers as a sounding board. You're probably bringing up negative stuff for them to remember. And it's not good to have um what you're going through be known to anybody. Anybody that knows you're going through it, they just need to look at you as saying, "Hey, I'm dealing with it and I'm getting through it." That it's positive, you know?
Yep, absolutely.
But definitely have somebody you can vent to and talk to.
And
That's
so Saturday group calls and then the opportunity here, like we're doing right now, is in a safe way. Some guys won't be in a position or just simply choose not to show their face or give their actual name, but a place to get to actually then not a place just to vent and things, as a group in a setting that's not going to be broadcast or shared anywhere, is a place here that can be published to share your story, in a safe way, not a bunch of specific details or names or, especially anything with bad choices involved in bad taste and making bad decisions, and getting out of control emotionally, especially in anger and things like that, but a place to calmly tell your story and know that your story can be out there for others to know maybe about yourself if you do end up giving if you do want to, because there's going to be a lot of guys in here that are going to we'll see them face to face and stuff, and that's another benefit I think that will help because it helps the individual get to tell their story and it gets to be here and it's going to stay here on the platform for years to come for whatever happens with the internet. And further than that is it helps other people. It is going to be broadcast out there where a lot of people can say, holy shit, this is happening to this many people. This many terrible things is really happening to American fathers out there. And then we're going to see too, I'm in touch with fathers all over the world that are going through this. And all of us, I'll speak for all of us when we say, it needs to stop. And just the awareness of these stories being there will have a huge impact on many lives. If it doesn't stop overall, you can't stop the evil machine out there, the devil that's in the world, but I know that it does have effect. It has a ripple effect and it does affect lives. It affects small details sometimes that could change the whole course of your relationship with your children and other people's relationships with their children, and that's worth it. It is. So uh John, I appreciate you being here today. For anybody, drop comments below with some of your thoughts, some of your questions, if you have them for me, if you have them for this guest today. And, if you'd like to see them back or hear more about the story in the future, because a lot of these stories are ongoing, we can return to that in the future. Appreciate everybody for being here. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, stick around here. Head over to Instagram, American Fathers. Hit a follow. You can contact me there and message me there. If you want to get any messages through to any of my guests, I can check them out and see if they're appropriate. Maybe I can forward them. If you want to support any of my guests here in any of these interviews, ask me about it. Sometimes I'll provide links for direct donations to them. Sometimes I'll take donations for them and forward it to them. It could be all kinds of stuff. It could be work opportunities. It could be representation. We could have, who knows, there's endless possibilities. We're going to keep it in a safe and secure way, vet any of the communications, but do encourage here. This is a team effort. This is a lot of guys coming together to better this country, first of all, together. the people that are going to be here, the futures for our children, and then set an example for the rest of the world like America is supposed to do. Think that's going to conclude the interview today, John. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, this country does need to have some type of help, and we can't expect anybody from the outside or even from the top ladders of this country to help itself. And Ephesians 5:11 speaks about not partaking in any of the evil, but to expose it. And I think it's really good to come together and to communicate about our stories to expose what's happening with the children of this country by exposing what's happening to the fathers. And how does that affect the children? At the end of the day, they're confused, they're torn, they blame themselves, they resort to anger and violence and drugs. And fuck, man, excuse me, I didn't mean to say that, but
Oh,
like
good.
the drugs alone, I mean, they have drugs nowadays that kill you with barely any dust of it. Like I'm confused about that. They didn't have none of this fentanyl whenever I was in high school.
Yeah, one mistake, one time, and it's unforgiving. It could be, the end. So that's right. And
There's so many broken families over fentanyl. So yeah, it's devastating. It's devastating. It really is, because what kind of life are our kids growing up and still developing their brains until the age of, what is it, 21, 23? What are they thinking? What are they doing? They need to have both parents in their life. And I'm convinced to such an extent that if a mother is going to go through such leaps and bounds to prevent the child or children from having a father in their life, when that's exactly what the child needs, is both parents, all for what, personal selfish gains, for some look, then it just, they don't need it. They don't deserve to have custody. They don't, because they're not putting the children's needs before their
right.
own. Not.
This has been a good
And
one. Yeah, go ahead. You got something
yeah,
else?
no, that was it. That was it.
I
I just
appreciate you
think
being here.
always focus on the children, always focus on them.
Absolutely. And
They are
I
the future of
appreciate you
America.
being here. They're the future of America, and they need a better future. And then we can at least, if the laws aren't going to take care of it, then we can equip them, with our words and our stories, just like they've done for millennia. So I appreciate you being here. This is going to be our first interview posted. And Wednesday nights about 7 or 7:30 Pacific time. Once I get 50 subscribers on YouTube, I'm going to be going live on those nights. And I think these interviews I'll be posting as there'll be a podcast episode number, but they'll be posted on another day. That way, not only do I have the Saturday group calls where you guys can show up for free, come and talk about things in a good place where other people are there who have been through it. Anybody that shows up on the live calls and stuff, I'll interact with in the live chat and comments and things like that while we're talking about something live, and just go over whatever topics are going on for the week, that things that I've seen on Instagram or have been sharing on Instagram, recent interviews that people have questions about that are just viewing the YouTube channel. Interviews, reach out to me for interviews so we can broadcast and publish an interview just like this one. And to help get everybody's mind in a healthy place, online fitness training. I've been a personal trainer several times, in physical gyms in my life, and I moved on to a point right now I offer that online, and I think it's a great resource for fathers to be able to focus on healthy eating exercise, and it will really get your mind in the best place possible when your body's healthy. That's something I do offer. That's something I do charge for. That's Iron Read. I have a YouTube channel. I'll link here in the description, maybe the comments, Instagram, iron.read. And another thing to help out, I think, is well, is if I can get when I get it to start growing, is it's kind of a book club. You know, some personal development books that we can focus on month to month for dads that want to join in that. I'll bring it up in the group meeting Saturdays briefly. I'll bring it up in some of these YouTube videos briefly. I like to read a lot, as you can see. I actually picked these books up off the shelf that are here. We'll go over all kinds of books, but I think as far as a book club, if you want to learn about all the other books I have, follow at Locust Honey Books, Instagram, YouTube. Those will be linked. But the personal development, like this whole side of my library right over here is all personal development stuff from, I mean, all over the place. Jocko Willink, John Maxwell, all kinds of stuff from all kinds of walks of life. We can focus on maybe one of those books at a time to help push you through. It helps you focus on something else, helps you learn more that you could teach your kids and more things you can apply to your life. And thanks again, John, for being here. We're going to go ahead and end this one, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday and on the next interview. It's American Fathers next
I
time.
appreciate it. Thank you.